in times of uncertainty. When the world seems to be teetering on the brink of chaos, it can feel like we're living in a dystopian novel. Suddenly, the reassuring routines of everyday life are replaced with fear and confusion. It's in these moments when societal norms begin to crumble that people's true colors often emerge. This brings us to an uncomfortable but necessary questions. What if the threat doesn't just come from faceless strangers, but from the very people what if the person living next door, the one you wave to every morning, could become a potential looter? When SHTF, the notion may sound far-fetched, maybe even paranoid, but history has shown that in desperate times, some individuals may resort to desperate measures. Looting, unfortunately, is one of them. It's essential to clarify that this isn't about fostering distrust or spreading fear. Rather, it's about promoting awareness and preparedness. After all, it never hurts to be skeptical, especially when it comes to the safety and security of our homes and loved ones. The key lies in understanding psychological quirks and behaviors. By observing certain signs and patterns, we can potentially distinguish those who might resort to looting from those who would stand by us as neighborhood watch heroes. These signs aren't definitive proof, of course, but they can provide valuable insights into someone's character and possible reactions in a crisis. Whether it's a neighbor who seems overly interested in your home security measures, one who has a history of unethical behavior, or one who lacks empathy and community spirit, there are subtle clues that can alert us to potential threats. However, it's important not to jump to conclusions based on these signs. They are indicators, not certainties. The goal isn't to accuse or alienate our neighbors, but to stay alert and prepared in chaotic situations. Being prepared doesn't just mean having an emergency kit stocked with food, water, and essential supplies. It also means being mentally prepared for the challenges that may arise, including the possibility of dealing with looters. It's about understanding the potential risks and having a plan to address them. Neighbors displaying a keen interest in your preps. Preparedness is a crucial aspect of survival when catastrophe strikes. Those who dedicate time and resources to stockpiling essentials, planning evacuation routes, and setting up home defense systems put themselves in a better position to weather the storm. However, when neighbors become overly interested in these preparations without making apparent efforts to prepare themselves, it could be cause for concern. It's natural for curiosity to arise among neighbors, especially if they see you frequently receiving deliveries of supplies or notice other signs of your preparedness efforts. They might ask about what you're doing, why you're doing it, and how they could do the same. This curiosity could stem from a genuine interest in preparedness, a desire to protect their own families in times of crisis. In such cases, sharing tips and advice could foster a sense of community and mutual support, which can be invaluable in emergency situations. However, important to stay vigilant and discern whether this curiosity hides darker intentions. If these neighbors seem more focused on the details of your preparations, how much food and water you've stored, where you keep your supplies, what kind of security measures you have in place, rather than the general principles of preparedness, it could be a red flag. And these neighbors might appear friendly and interested, but they could be meticulously observing your provisions and making mental notes. In the event of a crisis, they might see your stockpile not as the result of your diligence, but as an opportunity for their survival. Their plans could involve forcibly seizing your supplies when society's rules no longer apply. Additionally, some neighbors' questions might aim to uncover the locations of your cash stash or other valuable items. They could probe conversations like treasure hunters searching for the ultimate prize, using the guise of friendly chatter to extract valuable information. Even those who identify as half-hearted preppers can pose a potential threat. These are the neighbors who make minimal efforts towards preparedness, perhaps maintaining a basic stockpile, but not truly committing to the lifestyle. While they may not seem as threatening, they might covet your fully stocked preparations. In a crisis, the temptation to take from others to bolster their own meager supplies could become too great to resist. In conclusion, while neighborly interest in your preparedness efforts can be harmless, even beneficial in building a supportive community, it's crucial to remain cautious. Be mindful of the information you share and keep an eye out for signs of excessive curiosity or ulterior motives. To steal the essentials neighbor, the neighbor who casually mentions plans to seize what they need from others during a crisis. These offhand comments can be easily dismissed as jokes or hyperbole, but they could also hint at a deeper, more troubling mindset. Pretty sure that's bad. Having a casual conversation about preparation strategies with your neighbor, and they drop a bombshell statement along the lines of, "Why bother storing all that stuff when I can just take what I need?" Alarm bells should start ringing. This cavalier attitude towards others' property and safety is a significant red flag. Such individuals might not come across as threatening in day-to-day life. They might even be charismatic and well-liked within your community. However, their lack of moral hesitation in expressing these intentions suggests a potential for dangerous behavior when societal order breaks down. It's especially important to exercise caution around those who boast about their extensive collection of weapons, but seem to lack essential survival provisions. This imbalance may indicate a reliance on force and intimidation as a survival strategy rather than self-reliance and mutual aid. Their strategy seems as not to prepare, but to prey. If your neighbor shows an unusual interest in your tactical skills and arsenal, this could be another warning sign. Are they asking detailed questions about your home security measures, defense strategies, or weapon storage? If so, it's wise to guard your knowledge. They may not be seeking advice for their own preparations, but rather gathering intelligence to exploit your vulnerabilities. In a post-SHTF world, information becomes a valuable resource. Revealing too much about your preparation strategies could make you a target. Withholding information is not about being unneighborly. It's a necessary defense mechanism to protect yourself and your family. Of course, it's important to remember that talk is cheap. People may say one thing and do another. Just because a neighbor expresses plans to steal, it doesn't guarantee they will follow through. However, the mere fact they're willing to voice such intentions should warrant heightened vigilance on your part. Those who prioritize their survival without any regard for others' safety pose a potential threat. They may not value the community's collective well-being, and when push comes to shove, they might resort to looting to get what they want. In conclusion, I'll just steal what I need neighbor is a character that warrants caution. While we hope their words remain just that, it's crucial to recognize these signs and prepare accordingly. The ultimate goal is to ensure your safety and the security of your provisions in the event of a crisis. 3, neighbors with previous or current criminal activity. Neighbors with a history of criminal activity or those currently engaging in such behavior naturally raise security concerns, particularly in the context of emergency preparedness. Criminal record doesn't always predict future actions, but it can indicate potential risks. It's prudent to be aware of which neighbors have had brushes with the law, especially for offenses that suggest a willingness to violate others' property or personal security. In times of social unrest or disaster, individuals with a criminal bent may revert to illicit means to secure resources, viewing the dire circumstances as an opportunity to exploit. But there's more to consider than mere past actions. Behavioral cues and current activities can be far more telling. Is there frequent unexplained traffic to their home at odd hours? Or do you notice behavior that suggests ongoing illegal activity? These signs can be indicative of illicit dealings that, if coupled with a disaster scenario, could brew a perilous situation for surrounding residents. Certainly, an individual's past does not doom them to repeat it, and people can change. However, when preparing for worst-case scenarios, one must err on the side of caution. This doesn't necessarily mean confrontation or ostracism, which can exacerbate potential threats. Instead, a discreet, more vigilant approach is appropriate. It's about balancing preparedness with prudence, safeguarding your home without unnecessary provocation. Additionally, forge connections with other neighbors who share your dedication to preparedness. A vast network of like-minded individuals can serve as a collective defense, deterring those who might see the community's preparations as opportunities for theft or harm. You have a presence of a strong, united community, one that supports reformed individuals but remains alert to risks, is in itself a powerful deterrent. If you have neighbors currently involved in criminal activities, it's wise to maintain friendly but guarded relationships. Next is you don't want to appear as a threat or an outsider, but it's also vital not to be seen as an easy target. Keep private details about your preparedness endeavors to a minimum while being a good neighbor in benign aspects. In the end, it's a delicate dance of social dynamics and safety precautions. Balance your interactions. Be a community member who strengthens the neighborhood's fabric while securely weaving your safety net. 4, neighbors who are always late on their rent. Neighbors who consistently struggle to pay rent on time could be a point of concern in prepping for emergency situations. While financial troubles are common and not an inherent sign of poor character, a pattern of late payments could be symptomatic of deeper issues within an individual's ability to manage resources and responsibilities effectively. In a scenario where resource management becomes critical, these behaviors could translate into challenges. Financial instability may not only hinder one's capacity to invest in their emergency preparedness, it might also press the individual to take desperate measures if a crisis were to affect the regular flow of necessities. Versus with neighbors who have a provocative mindset about taking what they need, those who are perpetually behind on rent might be more inclined to seek out or seize others' supplies when their situation becomes dire. However, just as in other scenarios, it's essential to approach this issue with sensitivity and without prejudice. Financial difficulties can strike anyone, and they do not absolutely predict behavior during an emergency. Remembering that preparedness is not just about stockpiling goods, but also about fostering a dependable community. There's room to perhaps gently encourage financially strapped neighbors towards more sustainable habits. Offering help with budgeting or sharing low-cost preparedness tips could be a way to build rapport and a stronger, more prepared community. By helping neighbors who struggle financially, you also help to protect your community against potential desperation during hard times. Education around the importance of setting aside even small amounts for preparation could mitigate the risk and the stress of dealing with neighbors in need when resources are stretched thin. It's also wise to prepare for the possibility that these neighbors may be unable to acquire their preparation supplies. In such cases, consider what resources you might be willing to share and under what conditions. Establishing clear boundaries and agreements around resource sharing can prevent misunderstandings and conflicts later on. To maintain a certain degree of security, you might choose to be vague about the depth of your preparations to those who seem financially unstable, or be prepared to offer help in a controlled manner. This delicate balance between assistance and reserve is crucial in creating a community that can withstand crises without falling into chaos. 5 neighbors who are lazy and half entitled. In any community, there will invariably be those who exhibit a certain degree of laziness or a sense of entitlement, traits that can become particularly problematic in emergency preparedness situations. Unlike neighbors who struggle financially or those with a history of criminal behavior, laziness and entitlement are subtler issues to address. These traits manifest in a lack of initiative to contribute to communal efforts or an expectation that others will handle the brunt of the work. In a crisis, neighbors who are used to getting by without expending much effort may assume that they can rely on the hard work and diligence of others for their survival. This can create significant tension, as prepared individuals may feel taken advantage of or become overburdened by supporting those who have not shown the same level of commitment to emergency preparedness. The challenge lies in motivating these neighbors to recognize the value of self-reliance and collective responsibility. Informal community meetings, emergency planning sessions, and group training exercises can be excellent opportunities to foster a culture of participation. By gently emphasizing the importance of each individual's contributions, you can cultivate a more engaged and proactive neighborhood. Encouragingly, laziness and entitlement are not fixed states of being. Often they stem from a lack of awareness or a prior reliance on social structures that are absent in crisis scenarios. It may be necessary to set expectations for what community membership entails, including the shared efforts required during difficult times. By setting these communal standards, individuals who may have previously taken a backseat can rise to the occasion, acknowledging that each member has a role to play in ensuring the group's success. While it is vital to nurture a sense of belonging and shared destiny within the community, one must also prepare for the possibility that some individuals will not adjust their attitudes or behaviors. In such cases, having clear and agreed upon community guidelines can serve as a framework for addressing and managing these challenging dynamics. Establishing these parameters in advance is crucial, allowing a well-intended system of mutual aid to flourish without enabling unproductive dependency. 6. Neighbors who have a substance addiction. Individuals contending with substance addiction may present a unique set of challenges in a SHTF scenario. Addiction can deeply affect a person's judgment and priorities, often placing the acquisition of the substance above all else. In times of crisis, when societal norms and legal constraints may relax or become non-existent, the compulsion for substance acquisition could intensify, potentially leading to unpredictable or desperate behavior. Neighbors who are struggling with addiction might find it difficult to prepare for emergencies due to prioritizing their substance needs. This can be a significant risk factor for looting when institutional controls fall away, as the urgency for their next fix might drive them to resort to stealing or violent act. It is therefore crucial to recognize and understand the complexities of addiction, aiming to provide support and resources to those affected in the lead up to any crisis. Building a community safety net that includes support for those with addictions can be beneficial, Addiction recovery programs, mental health support groups, and other resources should be promoted as part of the community's preparedness strategy. Establishing trust and open lines of communication with these neighbors now will be an advantage in the event of an emergency. Moreover, creating a community-inclusive atmosphere may offer the stability and motivation needed for individuals facing addiction to engage in personal and communal preparedness efforts. However, it is also vital to plan for scenarios where an individual's addiction might lead to behavior that endangers themselves or others. This involves striking a balance between empathy and personal security. While you might not want to fully disclose the extent of your own preparations, remain prepared to guide afflicted neighbors to community resources and support networks during times of crisis. Adapting emergency plans to account for the possible behaviors of neighbors with substance addictions can mitigate risk, ensuring that all community members have the best chance of surviving and thriving despite the challenges. 7. Neighbors with loose morals. In assessing the likelihood of looting behavior during a SHTF scenario, the consideration of neighbors with loose morals becomes unavoidable. Moral ambiguity or a lack of ethical standards can be precursors to opportunistic and potentially criminal behaviors under the strain of societal breakdown. Individuals who exhibit traits such as dishonesty, manipulation, or exploitation in normal circumstances might be particularly inclined to engage in looting when the rule of law is weakened or absent. The signs of loose morals can range from consistently breaking small community agreements to more blatant disregard for the rights and properties of others. In non-crisis times, these neighbors may be the ones to cut corners, show disrespect for communal spaces, or take advantage of others' generosity without reciprocal actions. Despite the seemingly minor nature of these actions, they can be indicative of how a person might behave when larger temptations or necessities arise during emergencies. It's crucial to address these concerns proactively by establishing and reinforcing strong community ethical guidelines. Discussing the consequences of detrimental behavior openly at community meetings can set clear expectations. Efforts should also be made to engage these individuals in dialogues about the importance of maintaining a moral compass during trying times, highlighting how mutual respect and cooperation benefit everyone's survival and well-being. However, be prepared for the possibility that not everyone will adhere to these community standards. In such cases, having a contingency plan to protect oneself and one's property from potential looting becomes essential. This might include secure storage for valuables, forming neighborhood watch groups, and creating a system of accountability within the community. Ultimately, while you can strive to foster a community with strong moral values, it's also wise to prepare for scenarios where those values may not be upheld by all. By anticipating challenges related to neighbors with loose morals, you can tailor your emergency preparedness plans to include safeguards against the broader spectrum of human behaviors during crises. 8. Neighbors who are unprepared. Often, the most direct risk of looting in an SHTF scenario comes from those who are least prepared. But these neighbors, having not taken steps to stock up on essentials or formulate a survival plan, may rapidly find themselves in dire straits once the regular flow of amenities is disrupted. Panic and desperation can set in quickly when individuals or families wake up to the reality that they do not have the means to sustain themselves. This lack of preparedness can translate into rationalizations for taking what they need from others by force or stealth. It is paramount to recognize the signs of an unprepared neighbor. They be completely reliant on daily conveniences, have no basic survival supplies or skills, and display a lack of interest or disbelief when discussing emergency prepared. While you can encourage these individuals to prepare, there's also a delicate balance in offering help without revealing the full extent of your own provisions. Information that could turn your home into a target when supplies become scarce. Fostering a culture of self-reliance within the community can reduce this threat. Hosting workshops or sharing resources on basic preparedness can benefit everyone. However, contingency plans should still be put in place to secure your resources, with defensive measures considered as a last resort. Maintaining privacy about your levels of preparedness while simultaneously working to educate others about the necessity of emergency planning can help create a more resilient neighborhood. In conclusion, the threat posed by unprepared neighbors in a SHTF scenario cannot be overlooked. By recognizing this risk, you can take proactive steps to mitigate it through community engagement and personal security measures. Moreover, preparing for the possibility of having to defend your own resources against unprepared neighbors is a grim but necessary part of emergency planning.